Welcome on in. This is the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast for NFL Week 4. We are going to be breaking down every single game, all the fantasy angles, injury news, fantasy lineup questions, all that good stuff, and more. Let's start the show. Welcome on in. This is the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast for Week 4 of the NFL season. We're hurtling towards the quarter pole in the season already, and it's like, wow, this is it. We say it every year, but my God, I can't believe it. It's flying by like this. Sunday marks October. I mean, my God, it's moving at a
feels like July
pace
to me, John.
I know, and I wish I had a time machine to go back to July and get more Devin A-Chain than I have. I have some, but not enough.
Apparently, is that thing real about him being A-Chan now instead of A-Chain?
Oh shoot! Yes, here I go.
I don't know how I feel about
hosting
that.
The podcast. I don't either. It reminds
I don't
me
know
of
if I'm
4chan.
okay with it. I think you get one name change, and I think he used it on the Devon,
right?
And A-Chan. That's not even a Camara kind of thing where he's changing it to make it sound like a car. It's just it's just harder to say and less intuitive to read. So I think I'm gonna keep calling him A-Chain. That's a cooler name. You can make like more memes out of that.
I thought so
chains.
too. Yeah. Moving those chains. I mean,
or like gold chains, something. I don't know. Something.
Oh yeah. For the live viewers, I'm a chain guy myself. But
me too.
Of course, yeah, you're iced out. Let's get on. Let's kick things off with the Thursday night game. We've got the Packers and the Lions. Some fun statistics about this one coming out this week. This is the first time that the Lions have been favored in Lambeau Field when the Packers have had their starting quarterback healthy since 1986.
Wow, is that Lynn Dickey? Did they say in the trivia thing?
Gotta
be some goober like that, yeah. So it's not exactly good how Jordan Love has looked, but if he turns out to be like Lynn Dickey bad, that'd be kind of a little disappointing.
I feel like he's looked pretty solid thus far. I mean, there's no promise that the Packers have found their next great quarterback and they don't have to worry about it for another 20 years or anything like that. But I feel like he's been solid. And we still haven't seen Christian Watson yet either, but he is expected to play tonight.
That'd be nice. Yeah. Jordan Love, he's really tough for me to figure out, even, having 3 games to watch. I feel like I haven't really taken in a full game of him. It feels like there's just so many weird stretches. And in that Saints game, it was maybe the weirdest one of the 3 because he seemed to be doing awful for like a really, and he kind of was, I guess. And the Saints kind of kept letting him back in the game a little bit. And then when he got let back in, he looked pretty good, or, at least did some good things. So that's something. It's just, you'd like to not see so many of the cold stretches in the first place, because you're not always going to get, 3rd, 4th, 5th chances. So I still don't know how to make a call on him. I feel like he might still be settling in, kind of developing, even though he's been in the league all this time. He's been putting in the work in practice, of course, and everything, but he hasn't had a chance to really like find his own rhythm on the NFL field until this year. And it might be an ongoing process. And I'd like to see him do well.
I would as well. How do you think it stacks up for tonight with a short week against Detroit?
It's pretty brutal, the injury situation. David Bakhtiari's out again. Elton Jenkins is out again. Looks like this Zach Tom fellow is going to be playing hurt, which seems like he's not very good necessarily when he's healthy. So that's not great. Jair Alexander, that's a different issue, I understand. Anyway, I'm worried about the Packers being in a kind of a difficult spot here with their offensive line the way it is. I don't really have a good sense of the Detroit. Like, I haven't had a chance to look closely at guys like Josh Pascal, and Hutchinson's doing great, obviously. But it could be for a Lambeau game, and for against the Lions, it could be a kind of tough setup for Love, just because being down your 2 best offensive line starters is enough to deal with, and there's other problems too.
No, there absolutely is. And on the Detroit side, it looks like Dave Montgomery is going to be back in the fold. So what does that do for you when it comes to Jahmyr Gibbs tonight?
Well, it's not great. I still don't even understand what the Lions think they're doing exactly with Gibbs. Like even last week, how do you only get one catch to him? Why are you giving him 17 carries and one catch? You should be giving him like 12 carries and 4 or 5 catches. And I know Ben Johnson's a good offensive coordinator, but he hasn't really, to me anyway, shown that he knows what he's doing with Gibbs, and that's crazy to me, given that they took him 11th overall. Something that I think made perfectly good sense. Little pricey, I guess, but I thought it was okay because if you unleash Jahmyr Gibbs as an Austin Eckler type, then it's worth it. But if you're using him as almost exactly like DeAndre Swift, which a backup, that's just crazy. I don't know what they think they're doing. I don't know if there's a reason why they haven't done more with him yet, but it's crazy and it's got to change. And yet they that for it to change, or to think it's going to change, it takes just like a leap of faith. There's no actual evidence that they're going to do anything differently. Like for all I know, with Montgomery back, they might give Montgomery 16 carries and Gibbs 6 and still just like 2 catches for some reason. So I don't know. It seems like to me it would be pretty easy to get Gibbs going. He seems to me like he should be easily their more important player between him and Montgomery. And they just don't seem to be at that point. I don't know.
No, I see this continuing to be a frustrating thing for Gibbs managers. You can't quite justify sitting him, but you don't really feel good about starting him, whether it's your RB2 or your flex spot. It's just
Probably RB2. Some people have RB1s, third round or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if you went with that build and Gibbs is your RB1, like especially in PPR where it would have made sense. Like I liked getting him more on DraftKings than I did on Underdog at the price. And it's like, how are you only going to get him one target or one catch? I mean, it doesn't make a lick of sense.
It's like they're actually just plugging him into just a role that they didn't make for him. Like they just had a running back position, thought let's just plug Gibbs in there and just use him, between the tackles or whatever. And I just don't get it. I have to think it'll change soon. I'm not at the point where I'm worrying about Gibbs. I think Gibbs is very good. And
no, it's a Lions problem. It's not a Gibbs problem. I think.
Yeah. So I'm hoping he gets going, but I just don't know how to, think it'll actually happen. It's more just a hope thing at this point.
Right. So yeah, there's no real indication that we've seen that the light will go on for Ben Johnson to deploy Gibbs properly. But I think what Johnson's done to this point, you feel like he will figure it out. But it is taking a frustrating amount of time. Again, we are into week 4, and I got to give you some props here. You're not the biggest victory lap guy in the world, but the Sam Laporta call looking pretty good.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I can't claim to have expected him to do quite this well. I guess that touchdown was kind of just, goofy, busted coverage. But he's really good. Yeah. And it's if you've been listening to the podcast since February or whenever we first started talking about the tight ends, I went into the Laporta study like dreading it. I hate watching Iowa. Even like someone like Kittle, it was hard to watch him play in the offense, and then the offense got a lot worse with I don't even remember the quarterback's name, but Laporta was playing on. There's something worse than all Madden. There's something more difficult than all Madden.
It was Spencer Petras, is that right?
I don't. Yeah, it was awful. It was like all time. Aside from like Rutgers Sitkowski era. This Iowa offense was one of the just worst you could ever see, and tougher than all Madden, and he was still really, really doing good. Then he tested really good, so it seemed kind of easy to me. It's like when they produce really well, when they look that good, when they test that good, probably going to be good. But yeah, I didn't anticipate him playing 50 snaps a game right away, and specifically, they're giving him a lot of blocking reps, which I would not have expected or I wouldn't expect someone to want to get him blocking specifically, but it can't hurt that he's, clearly trusted to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's a tight end coming out of Iowa, almost like regardless of the size, he probably knows how to wrestle, probably pretty good
And
at
he
blocking.
wrestles it not as a blocker like Kittle, but after the catch, he's every bit as psycho as Kittle is. Not as fast, but the tackle breaking is pretty crazy with Laporta, and he hasn't really shown that much of it yet. Even
So we might get treated to it a little bit tonight, depending on how frothy the Packers secondary is feeling. We got a couple questions here, and then we'll move on to Sunday. Interesting one. Better combo rest of the season: Jordan Love and Christian Watson, or Justin Fields and DJ Moore?
in a sane world, it would be Fields and Moore, but the Bears. I don't know what you can say about them. It's pretty egregious. It's getting to the point where I don't know if really anyone can produce there, but it's man, it's crazy. That last year, they were using Fields, I won't say correctly, but smarter than this year, and this year they have more receivers. It just doesn't make any sense. It's so easy to fix. So for that reason, I'm kind of drawn toward Fields and Moore, and yet I guess I have to admit they might have the lower floor of the two, which is just insane. I would say Fields and Moore, but I don't know. That might be bad advice.
Yeah, it's impossible to feel good about that one. I think that there is definitely like the higher floor going forward with Love and Christian Watson now that Watson is back in the mix. Let's see, and then what would you do about the Saquon Barkley situation with him playing on Monday night? I feel like that this is one where despite the whole Monday night wrinkle, we'll know by Saturday at the very least, what direction things are trending in when it comes to Barkley. So hopefully we get some clarification on Saturday. But if we don't, or if things are looking dicey, then I think you are probably going to have to bench him.
Yeah, I guess we would expect Burita to get the start again, but I don't know what there is to do with that. It's better than a zero, I guess. But yeah, I am not
Yeah.
expecting Barkley to play exactly on a high ankle sprain.
No, that's too quick of a turnaround, in my opinion. And then last one for right now, this week, Kyron Williams or Jameer Gibbs?
God, this is a torture question for me because
It
the answer
is.
might be Kyron Williams, but it's just wrong. It's unethical that the NFL would exist such that Kyron Williams gets bigger numbers than Jameer Gibbs. Jameer Gibbs is 50 times the player that Kyron Williams is. But if he's not going to be allowed to play for whatever reason, and for whatever other reason, Kyron Williams won't be allowed to not play, then I guess I got to say, at least for right now, Kyron Williams, even though I don't think he's going to do a whole lot from scrimmage, it's just he's going to keep getting the 6-7 targets.
Yep. I think he played every single running back snap.
Yeah, he's played like every snap but 3 the last 2 weeks. I gotta say, and I don't want this to be true, but if they keep making Williams play 60 plus snaps a week, he is going to get hurt. So keep that in mind, in my opinion.
He's like dollar store Najee Harris or something. And it's
He is the smallest or he's like the 4th smallest running back and maybe like the 5th slowest. And when you do size adjusted speed, he is the worst one in the NFL right now.
good job, Rams. That feels good. Before we get on over to Sunday's action, we'll go over to Foggy London Town. We've got a message from our friends over at Rival Fantasy. If you're looking for a place to play head-to-head football games, fantasy football games at that, without the huge tournaments, salary caps, or complicated game types, then Rival Fantasy is where you want to play this NFL season. From a twist on a classic game with Fantasy Bingo, where players generate a lineup to complete achievements and get bingo, to head-to-head fantasy challenges, where you'll pick which of 2 players will score more fantasy points, this is the best of fantasy sports. For the 2023 NFL season, Rival Fantasy is offering new users a $200 deposit match plus a $25 first play voucher. Rival is so confident that you'll love the experience. They're giving you money to play right out of the gate. Experience the future of fantasy sports on Rival Fantasy and become a rival today. Mario, London games, they're happening. We're back. We're back to getting up really early on Sunday. But we get.
No,
we
we're
get to
not,
enjoy-
John. we're just missing the game.
I did that. With the Ravens played the Jaguars when I was in my mid-20s. London game, and I woke up from a night out. Saw that the Ravens were down by like 3 or 4 touchdowns in the first half, and was like, I get to just roll back over and go to sleep.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I think the risk reward dictates you keep sleeping and you don't get up for the game, because if you win, it's like, waking up to a present or something, and if they lose, you're like, well, at least I didn't wake up for that.
Exactly. So therein lies the challenge facing all of us this coming Sunday. But we've got the Falcons. I guess you could say on the road against the Jaguars, given the Jaguars' history over there. But we've got the Jaguars as 3-point favorites in this one. That line is held steady over the course of the week, over under 43.5. I did not do any digging into the London game over unders, but I'm pretty sure that the under is usually what comes in when we play across the pond. Regardless, Jaguars, I mean, they wiped out a lot of people in Survivor last week. These are two teams coming off of dud performances. I mean, it was pretty dreadful what Atlanta put on display in Detroit last week. You would have figured that matchup set up pretty nicely for them, but unable to get anything going. And the Jaguars, of course, they got kind of rocked by the Houston Texans.
Yeah, Jaguars are not a well-run team right now. I hate to say it. I don't know if Doug has it in him to fix it. I don't know how much is specifically owed to the play calling of Press Taylor versus kind of like, the structure of the offense. I don't know if it's the system that's the problem or the play calling. It could kind of be both, but at the very least, the Jaguars on offense have a problem of just point blank being way too predictable. They don't have enough variation in the depths and like areas of the field that the routes are run by a given player. So for instance, they have Evan Ingram. This is something I've been complaining about for, I guess, 5 years now with Evan Ingram. So it wasn't always with Doug, but it includes Doug's usage. They use him pretty much about 5 yards within the line of within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. And I understand doing that when the defense is kind of giving you a cushion, or if they're just kind of leaving that spot open for you or whatever. By all means, get Ingram the ball there if it's there. However, when Evan Ingram runs a 4.42 40, thus making him probably Ridley was only like a 4.43. So technically Evan Ingram tested faster than any other skill position player on the Jaguars roster, even including Travis Etienne. And they never send Ingram downfield, or, like 1 out of 20 routes, he'll go more than 10 yards downfield, which is just crazy. And when you have players that reliably go into certain areas of the field only, and only at certain depths at certain paces, you as a defense can kind of do a thing where you're like, okay, I know, I don't want to get beat deep by Ridley, but if he doesn't, look deep after 8 steps or whatever, I know I got 2 beats, and they're going to get rid of the ball within those 2 beats. So I can start just kind of guessing, like, he's clearly not going to go this way. He only has so much room to this side or that. And I know that the ball's coming out in 2-1. So I'm just, clobbering him. And you're not seeing defenders like turning and running enough. You're not seeing guys getting caught off. You never see a defender like stopping in their tracks and changing direction to go after someone. It's just like they're just downhill all the time against the Jaguars. And every throw that Trevor Lawrence makes seems like it's going into like the teeth of the defense for some reason. Like it's just always a tight window throw. And there's no reason for the Jaguars route runners to have that kind of issue getting separation. It's ridiculous. It is someone on the coaching staff's fault. And, to me, it seems like there should be some kind of easy fix, but I don't know if the Jaguars are going to, make the fix. I don't know if they have it in them. So I hope so. It's an egregious case through 3 weeks, honestly.
No, they are getting so much less than the sum of their parts. I mean, even the week one game, even if the score might indicate something, it didn't feel like it was smooth sailing for this offense. And the last 2 weeks, especially last week, inexcusable to really have that level of play.
They were
And
going against backup Texans corners too. Like Tavir Thomas and Derek Stingley were both out. So to not have they still have one good corner, Steven Nelson, but what's his name? Shaq Griffin, who was on the Jaguars, it was bust free agent signing. It's like he was in that corner and he was getting roasted. Like he was one of those guys in training camp where it's just like every time a Texans receiver is making a catch downfield, it's against Shaq Griffin. And like you can't get Calvin Ridley, you can't get Christian Kirk going against those guys. It's just that is the coach's fault.
I think so too. Is that Press Taylor?
It's Press Taylor that they gave the play calling this year, and I don't know. I don't know what the system gives him to work with. I don't think he changed the system. I think it's more or less like Doug Peterson's system, but it seems to me like there has to be a better sequencing with these plays possible. Like the way Taylor's doing it, even if there's something with the system not giving him great, leeway to experiment or whatever, he's being too repetitive. He's not giving defenses enough to think about, basically.
And to your point on Evan Ingram, but obviously listening to you describe the lack of usage of Ingram's, top end speed, and I was like, oh, he must be, 6 yards average depth of target, 3.2. What are we doing?
It makes me mad, John. I don't I can't think of a charitable to be fair kind of thing to offer on behalf of the Jags coaches. It's just nonsense to me.
And then on the Atlanta side of the equation, when does Heineke watch start?
I actually didn't get a chance to look at that game, but do you, John, have a sense of whether Ritter kind of made most of those sacks happen, or whether it was a tandem effort of the quarterback and the offensive line? Because I have this crank suspicion that the Falcons offensive line actually isn't good, and that all that stuff last year where they were getting good PFF grades was just because they were run blocking so much. But admittedly, they haven't had a game that bad, certainly since Matt Ryan, and it could be Ritter's fault that he was taking that many sacks. It's not looking good. Whoever's fault it is, it's like, this is not fixable kind of thing.
Right. It's just like you complete barely over half your passes at 5.3 yards per attempt against the Detroit Lions, and you can't get anything going on the ground either, despite having what's verified as pretty good speed for a quarterback at a 4.52. But
Yeah.
we expressed the concerns when he was a prospect as to whether he'd be able to leverage that speed, because he is pretty rail thin. But either way, it just doesn't seem to be working. It obviously has fantasy ripple effects for Kyle Pitts and for Drake London. They've yet to be able to get both of them going in the same game, which is crazy when they are really the only two guys worth throwing it to if you're not throwing it to Bijan Robinson. So Atlanta seems kind of busted too, in a sense. I felt a little bit optimistic after the first 2 weeks for them, but I found like last week was a bit more of like a sobering reality check as to where the Falcons really are.
Yeah, it's frustrating that they aren't a better team, and you'd think it'd be easy to find a better quarterback than this. Like, God, it's even like Andy Dalton would be a huge upgrade, And although I am open to Heineke being better than Dalton, so I don't mean to count out Heineke. I'm more so concerned Heineke's gonna, he's always like jumping off of roofs and stuff.
Yeah, he's gonna Dave England himself on the IR.
Yeah, he's gonna do the elbow trick again, and we're back to Ritter.
Darn it, we can't have it, but that's where we're at. So bottom line here, I like the Jags to bounce back and win.
I guess, yeah, one of these idiots has to win, so I guess the Jags will say.
Yep. Hashtag trust Trevor.
Save us, Trevor.
Please. Onward to the afternoon slate. We've got the Dolphins, Bills. probably the best game of this weekend. Bills favored by 2.5 or 3 points, depending on the book. Bills obviously at home in this one. The over-under, a crispy 53.5. So we love to see that. We love to see some high totals. We definitely saw some really low ones last weekend. So obviously Miami cruise passes total by themselves last weekend. Don't expect that to happen again. But
that was crazy. Yeah, what can I
that
say?
was absolutely bonkers. Every time you look up that the Miami's in the red zone or having already scored again is
I
just
couldn't tell. Like, did the Broncos quit that much, or was McDaniel just he really had them in that much of a head? What is there? Is it Vance Joseph the coordinator? It's like
yeah.
had him in a sharpshooter. Just would not let him out.
Had him just totally pinned down. There was
Even my guy Chris Brooks was running wild. It was crazy.
There was some sentiment that that the Broncos did just kind of look like they wanted to get out of there by like halfway through the second half or so. But
They must they should have wanted to get out.
yeah, I mean that seemed like a miserable time for them, but very fun for literally everybody else. That was amazing. But going up against a Buffalo team that I feel like Buffalo, despite having 2 blowout wins over the last 2 weeks, like there's still a bit of a
They're the same
funk
team
about
they've
them.
been as like they're not showing anything new, like we've always known that they can beat up on weak teams and they can compete with good teams, the best teams too, but we've seen them get to this same crest for 3 years now, and they get to it, and each time we're like they're going to go over it, and each time they kind of just slip and stay there. And they got to start beating teams that aren't just the Raiders, especially at this point in their window. Like they can't, like Josh Allen can probably play a long time, but you don't want to assume you'll have quite the core of players that they do right now and all the continuity that they do at so many levels of the organization. And beating the Raiders like they did, it's like you're, I guess, checking the box. You certainly don't get extra credit for it. You're doing what you should be doing with relative ease. So, kudos for doing the easy thing. But beating the Dolphins is very much a different question. And I don't know, man. McDaniel's just kind of on one. Tua's doing a great job. I don't mean to make it sound like the whole thing is just
MVP
McDaniel.
favorite right now.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, granted, if the numbers hold like they have been, he will win it. I just it feels like a trap to me. Not even for the concussion reasons. It's just we kind of have, especially early in the season, a tendency to just overreact to stuff. And as much as Tua gets a lot of credit for it, that Denver game was such a laugher that I'm not looking at it as like, oh, the Bills defense is going to have the same thing happen to them now too. I'd sooner say like it was an open net game for Tua. So he did a good job, but even in his case too, it's like it's checking the box. When the defense quits or is beaten that bad, you should be making good throws. But the Bills defense, I guess, is I can't remember how Tua did against them last year. I could imagine him.
There was, I think, maybe he had just one game against it. He had the early season game where they won close, and that's when Ken Dorsey went ballistic in the box. I forget if I know
Tua
Tua
leave
didn't
that
play
game in
the
3.
Oh, he might have, and then week 4
because he was doing good, but he only threw 18 passes, so that must have been one of them. But yeah, the at Buffalo later in the year, worse outcome in that one, but that's something you'd kind of bake into the expectation being in Buffalo late in the year.
Right.
At least this one's, I don't know what the latest of the various hurricanes or whatever are happening in the world, but as long as there's not like rain and stuff, this should be a much easier version than playing this game in December.
Yeah, I believe that the weather forecast for Buffalo on Sunday is pretty pristine, like high 70s, clear.
Oh,
so
nice.
Should be all systems go.
That's
there,
how they
so.
should do it. Early season Buffalo, late season Miami, instead of the other way around.
It makes too much dang sense. So one of the big, obviously fantasy storylines coming out of this past weekend was the arrival of one Devon Achane. What do we do with him now in season long? you start him now, like not thinking twice about it, or is this something that we might see the work get scaled back, or was he just simply too good last weekend to justify scaling back the role?
It's the kind of thing that he's limited workload wise, in my opinion, both because of his frame and because of the structure of the Dolphins offense. Like they ran a lot of plays. They let's see, they had 78 plays. That's a lot. And
Almost a point per play.
yeah, so 18 carries, 4 catches. That's awesome to see Achan that guy. It was good to see him have carry a workload like that, because it was, a bit of a question. He's certainly among the smallest running backs to get drafted in day 2 history or recent history, and there's a lot of not so good case study outcomes of running backs with similar builds to his that didn't turn out in the NFL. So it was good to see him, just kill it like that and do it on a workload that was pretty hefty. However, that he had the workload that big in that game, I think, was sort of just a byproduct of the circus going on. I don't think the Dolphins are really like, we got to get him 30 snaps a game, we got to get him 18 carries. It was I think it's let's see, Jeff Wilson's not coming back for this one.
No.
Salvon Ahmed's over. That was stupid to begin with. I mean, Mike McDaniel is maybe the goated play caller of all time, but his player personnel, it's all these guys are like this. The best play callers just like can't tell who their best players are. It's like, if you're looking at Salvon Ahmed and saying, I think we got to go with him this week over Devin Achane, then you just, you're very wrong. You're missing something. And yeah, Ahmed is over now. There's no way McDaniel can be like, yeah, Ahmed could have done that. He could have had 230 and 4 touchdowns. I've seen him do that kind of stuff before. Ahmed might get cut soon, because I don't know if they're going to cut Chris Brooks. He's more interesting than Ahmed anyway. The thing is, Mostert's going to get probably like 30 snaps. I guess you could see Achan getting to 30 snaps if they run another 70 something in this one, and that could happen, but it would require, I think, kind of a shootout, sort of like Josh Allen needs to have a good game, and Tua needs to have a good game too, for Achan to get to like 30 snaps in this one. So that workload, I think, is always going to trend more toward like 8 carries and 3 catches than 18 and 4 catches. However, he is the fastest running back in the NFL, and he plays for Mike McDaniel. So I think we have to consider it a pretty serious possibility that Achane finishes the year like 7 yards a carry, something like that, and with a touchdown every, I don't know, 12 carries, something like that. So I'm not going to say it's an easy call. If someone wants to bench him for workload concerns, I would totally understand it, but I would probably need 3 really good, 2 really good running backs and a really good flex alternative, all to keep Achane on the bench right now.
Yep, same. I'm throwing him in there where I have him, and I feel like the Dolphins at this stage, they can just justify having 30-ish carries divided with Mostert and with Achane, and with Achane, like the yards per touch are going to be so much more ridiculous and the touchdowns per touch relative to like these volume plotter types. Like Kyron Williams will probably lap him in total touches this year, but like Achane will probably outscore him for fantasy purposes.
Achane will have 3 times as much yardage on half the workload.
See, exactly. So I think once you like kind of get that framing to analyzing Achane, where it's like, okay, he's not going to get the Jonathan Taylor of old type of rushing workload, but that's okay. He's going to be, when he's out there, he's going to be fresh because Mostert has been out there, and he can use that game-breaking speed. So Miami just has such an advantage when it comes to the speed element. They're getting Jalen Waddle back. You already have Tyreek Hill, of course. Mostert, for his part, is maybe like the second fastest running back in the league. So they it's got to just be hell to play against the Dolphins in that sense.
Yeah, I don't think it, maybe since I guess it's we could be talking like that Patriots team and the 99 Rams as far as the offenses that just give you this level of dread. It's I don't think that the league is particularly close to figuring out McDaniel. I don't know if they'll ever be able to. It might be a kind of thing that they adjust to some things that he's doing and slow him down, but I also think it's just as likely he'll always find a new way. And every time you make an adjustment, you're leaving yourself thinner somewhere else, and he might always find it. And if he is that good, if he's on that kind of roll and he's got this speed to work with, and if the offensive line doesn't fall apart, if Tua is healthy, yeah, the Bills defense, even being a good one, it could be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all laughed at Mike McDaniel when he first gets hired by Miami. He's on that phone call with Tua on the private jet. It's like, I'm going to make you an MVP, and we all laughed. Look at us now.
And we all laughed when they watched McGruber on the flight back from the concussion.
I mean,
because it's a good movie.
Yeah, what cheers you up more than doing the celery distraction? Beyond
celery trick. Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh, this is a good show. All right. We final thought or final prediction here on the Miami Bills game before we move on.
I'll take the Dolphins, but admittedly, I'm just kind of flipping a coin in my head and letting last week's results push it to its outcome.
I just my fade the Bills instinct has not gone away just yet. So
you're a hater.
I am. It's been established basically at this point. Sorry, Bills Mafia.
We got that question from Tyler there.
We sure do. We have a super chat from our guy Tyler. He wants to know if you would start Jared Goff or Joe Burrow this week. Tricky because Goff is obviously playing on the Thursday night game, but we've got a decent over-under in that one, and it's not a cold weather game at Lambeau, which is an important detail. We have Jared Goff ranked as QB8 this week, and we have Joe Burrow down at QB11. So pretty close in terms of the projection, but despite Burrow looking better in week 3, I don't know if he looked better than Goff or my expectations for Goff going into this week. And the Titans are no picnic to play against. I think that especially on the road. So I give my lean to Goff here, even on the short week.
Sorry to give a split decision, Tyler, but here's the disclaimer that can maybe make it easier for you to decide. But I'm pretty much a Goff hater, so it's tough for me to pick him ever, and I can't do it ever when he's on the road. And his offensive line's a bit beat up. I guess we still don't know how healthy Amon Ra is, even though he did great last week. So I would go with Burrow because, if nothing else, too, I think he's going to throw 40 passes in that game, and because the Bengals aren't going to be able to run at all in the Titans. So that's why I go with Burrow. It's not great how he's looking, but yeah, if you're looking for the tiebreaker, it is worth keeping in mind that I can't be unbiased about Goff.
It's true. I've noticed that a handful of times over the years. Jared Goff stands look elsewhere. Before we get on over to our next game, we've got a message from our friends over at Better Vision. I think we can all agree that fantasy sports are awesome. So is daily fantasy and sports betting. That's why we have so many friggin' accounts. Boy, don't we. What's not awesome is going to a bunch of different apps to find the best odds and manage your fantasy lineups. Enter Better Vision. That's BETTOR Vision. Better Vision is the only app that syncs all your fantasy, DFS, and sportsbooks accounts in one place. We only show you the best odds for every bet, so you'll always get the best value. And our dashboard is the only one-stop shop to track all your fantasy matchups, DFS picks, and bets. Visit bettervision.us to download Better Vision today. We also got a message from our friends over at Vivid Seats. Football is back. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? Kick off the NFL season with Vivid Seats and score tickets to all the hottest matchups and biggest games of the year. Catch every pass, every tackle, every heart-pounding play of your favorite team live and in person. And with Vivid Seats, now you earn rewards with every single purchase. Each ticket you buy gets you closer to your reward. Just buy 10 tickets, then simply cash in your credit towards your 11th ticket purchase. It's that easy. Plus, Vivid Seats is offering you $20 off your first $200 ticket purchase with code RotoWire. That's ROTOWIRE. From the 50-yard line to the upper deck, Vivid Seats has great tickets for all the 2023 games that matter to you. Just visit vividseats.com or download the app today. Again, that's promo code RotoWire. That's ROTOWIRE. And then a message from our friends over at Blue Wire. Okay, on to the next one. Vikings Panthers. The Adam Thielen revenge game taking place in Carolina. 4.5 is the line here in favor of the Vikings on the road. Bryce Young looks like he's going to be back in the fold. I would have been on Carolina had it been Andy Dalton, as crazy as that sounds. With it being Bryce Young, I know the Vikings have, I believe they've yet to cover a spread this year. I think they break that streak this week in Carolina.
Fair enough. I hate thinking about the Panthers. I don't like anything they do. I don't like the Vikings either. They're also annoying to me. But man, the Panthers are just grim. I don't know how anything good comes of this. But like you said, Bryce Young has been discouraging, and I do think that Seattle defense is maybe the worst in the league, and that Young would have had a much better game against them than he did on the road against Atlanta or against the Saints, who have a good defense. So I even as someone who is not high on Young, I'm not really blaming him for anything that's happened to this point. However, Dalton, at least, I don't know, he was okay last year, not good exactly, but better than or as good anyway as someone like Daniel Jones. It's just that's not what you normally strive for. So I can understand why the Panthers are going back to Young and hoping that he does better in an easier matchup against the Vikings defense. That's just kind of it's got a few things going for it. They got a couple good players, but they're not good throughout any one unit. It's like there's no strength area of the defense. They just kind of got a few guys who are pretty good on their own, and you can't really amount to much as a defense that way. So Bryce Young, I think, will have a better game here. As to whether it's enough to make it competitive or whatever, I don't know. I do think that the Vikings offense could get a lot better if they just started giving more snaps to Addison, specifically at the expense of Osborne, but they appear to just not be interested in having more yards on the team.
So fully familiar with your skepticism of KJ Osborne, and it's obviously borne out in the numbers. But I watched a good bit of the game last weekend against the Chargers, and getting to actually visibly see how bad he is, really something else. He
it's also
should not
weird.
Be on the field.
Yeah, they justify his playing time by talking about what a good blocker he is. And it's like, you guys hate running the ball. The Vikings probably, other than the Dolphins, run the fewest rush attempts at the running back position, I would guess, in the league. It's or the Chiefs, maybe. I don't know. Some teams like that. So if you're going to be a blocking specialist, if you're going to put a blocking specialist receiver in your starting lineup, you better run like hell, because you're not throwing. Osborne's on the field, so you're just not. So
the Vikings are the lowest rushing volume in the league at 50 attempts through 3 games.
So stupid. So, well, anyway, they'll have to eventually make that change. Usually what happens in cases like these is the coach is forced through desperation or, bad optics, getting to the point that the owner or the GM is leaning on him and saying, hey, I thought Jordan Addison looked pretty good last week. Maybe we should put him in more, huh? Stuff that's how it's probably got to go here. But I do think it is reaching that point. Addison just keeps being pretty much automatic, and Osborne keeps being a total sinkhole in the offense. So when you're 0-3, stupid decisions like that tend to get abandoned more easily.
Yep. So that they're in that tough spot, the dreaded 0-3 start.
Not making the playoffs. It's over.
No,
You're not making it. You blew it
have
already.
have the regression concerns, but I mean, not to this extent. I mean, it's been ugly.
It's like they got the
Mhm.
bad regression hit, and they added more problems onto it on their own, and it's like nice work.
Impressive stuff. So yes, I'm with you there, but I think that they will beat the Panthers. The Panthers are also just kind of banged up generally on the defensive side of the ball, and
Yeah.
that bodes ill when at the very least the Vikings have Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins. So I think that's pretty much going to be enough for them to get this done. Let's go to the sicko game of the year. Broncos Bears, baby. We got Broncos 3.5-point favorites on the road. Do we want to just do a full other podcast on this game and just move on to another one? I mean, but
yeah, I was chuckling when you're talking about the sicko game, and then when you reminded me of what the actual game is. I'm like, that's not funny. It's nothing. This is not funny. It's not a joking matter.
I'm serious,
this
people.
Game
this
sucks.
is my job. It's so bad.
I hate these teams so much. This game doesn't exist to me. I'll take, I guess, the Broncos, but just because they have Marvin Mims is going to play 15 snaps and have 200 yards. He's going to do like a Devin Achane thing at receiver, and they'll win 14-10.
Marvin, like it was like funny the second week of the season where Mims did great on unlimited targets. It's like, oh well, certainly he'll play a little bit more this coming week, and it still just didn't really happen. I know it's tough. You get a logjam where Judy and Sutton are both healthy now, but I mean the returns for Mims are just absurd.
We got to start doing it again, John. We got to start up the bashing Brandon Johnson segment. Is that what his name is? I can't even remember his name.
It is.
Okay. Well, yeah, that whole thing is just, it's like as stupid and bad as the Broncos are, they might have cost themselves a chance at a win because of just playing inexplicably this receiver that I can't remember the name of from UCF in Tennessee. They're playing him over Marvin Mims. Like, they might have lost a game because of that, and I just can't believe it. It's crazy. I really can hardly talk about it.
It's well, I know
we don't need to. This game sucks.
It's bad. We're far down the road, but it's still early in a sense. I think that Mims is going to start to get more consistent.
Yeah, Mims rules.
So I think if you have him, I think he's definitely like it is pseudo risky because of the playing time concerns, but I think a definite guy that you can justify starting in your flex spot for this week. I guess that this is one lineup decision that I had that might be salient, might help some other people out. Would you start Mims or Nico Collins this week?
Probably Nico Collins. Am I missing something? Why wouldn't it be Nico Collins?
Oh, I just think that Mims is upside.
Oh, okay, cool.
Is right
I
there.
love Mims too. I just I am personally chalking up Collins' slow week last week to just getting the most of Tyson Campbell. I think that's pretty much what cut Tank Dell loose is just the defense. To the extent the Jags could defend the pass, they pretty much put it all at Collins just on the basis of Campbell going after him. So no Campbell in this defense, and the Steelers, I think, not to make it sound like it'll be easy exactly. I assume they'll get better over the course of the year, but the Steelers' pass defense hasn't looked all that convincing to me to this point.
No, they have the husk of Patrick Peterson out there. So really,
he's still talking trash. He's just like limping up and down the field after ball carriers and just talking trash at them.
It's quite a sight to behold. But yeah, well, I suppose my question was somewhat foolish in that case.
I wish you could do both. I don't want to say bench Mims. I want to say start Mims. I want to say it to Sean Payton.
Yeah, thank you. Let's see. Beyond that, I think that's pretty much it for this game. The Bears. I mean, you starting Justin Fields still if you have him?
No,
I'm not either.
I mean, unless I have just an incredibly bad alternative. If it's Sam Howell and Justin Fields, yeah, I'll start Justin Fields.
Yeah, that's pretty much the line of demarcation. Let's go on over to Cleveland. We got the Browns facing off against the Ravens. Browns 2.5-point favorites in this one. I dug up some interesting like betting trends when it comes to these two teams. Let's see here. The Ravens are 12-3 against the spread in the last 15 games. Against Cleveland, the Ravens are 19-3-1 against the spread in the last 23 games. As a underdog, the Browns 1-7 against the spread after a win since the start of last season. 6-12 as a favorite dating back to 2021.
That's great. They're pretty beat up right now, though, and it sucks because I think it's really disrupted the implementation of the Monken offense, like having all these injuries and just weird situations. And I don't know how soon they might get it all together. It's hard to get a new system going when you have a lot of personnel turnover from week to week. And the Browns, to me, at least look like a coherent product. It's not on offense, especially. It hasn't been good. Although I guess Watson did better last week. But on defense, they're super legitimate. And if you could get this matchup maybe 2 months from now, and you told me everybody was healthy for the Ravens, I'd say yeah, Lamar's ready for this game. I don't feel that way right now. I think that the Ravens look busted basically, and the Browns defense, it's not so much that Jim Schwartz is doing an amazing job or whatever. It was that Joe Woods was doing an amazingly bad job all these years. And getting an average defensive coordinator has catapulted the Browns into like top 5 defense category, which it feels weird to say, but a few years ago, as they were accumulating guys like Garrett, Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, it felt like, oh, they're going to be a really awesome defense soon. And then it just never happened. We kind of forgot about all that. But I think now it is happening, and it, could be Lamar's problem.
Yeah, Lamar, I think, is going to basically have to be Superman for the Ravens to pull this off. So even with those trends regarding the Browns, and I'm still not ready to jump in with both feet that Watson is fixed or someone that we can count on week to week. I still think that he has clunkers still to go this year, but I'm not sure it happens this week. The Browns are at home. The Ravens,
no Hamilton, no Humphrey.
Ooh, is Hamilton out?
Oh, sorry. I just saw that he wasn't practicing. But
yeah, apparently his like left arm was apparently bothering him a bit on Sunday. He did play 84 snaps in that game on defense alone. He was a monster. I think we're starting to see him come on. So hopefully he's out there. We'll see what's up with Humphrey. Some Instagram reporting on my part. I think it was Odafe Owe's Instagram videoing Marlon Humphrey in the weight room saying, oh, he's going to be back this week. So we'll see what happens there. But
that'd be helpful.
It would. Ronnie Stanley and Linderbaum were both practicing on Wednesday, so that helps. But they still might be shorthanded at receiver, depending on what Beckham and Bateman's situations are. And they need to do a better job of deploying Zay Flowers, because they're basically doing the Evan Ingram thing to him. Just 5.1 is his average depth of target, and that includes that 150-yarder against the Bengals a few weeks ago.
So it's like one.
Basically, it's just one. If you look at his next gen stats route tree from last week, they just have him go up to the line and just turn right or turn left. There's no verticality to his usage to this point.
Yeah, I will say, I do. If I had to guess, I would chalk it up mostly to the personnel turnover and just the clunks, the growing pains of getting a new system in place. But the timer is starting on Monken. Like he seems like the type to me that would do exactly this, but he has to be kind of self-critical right now and try to think about doing things differently.
I think so as well, but long-term optimistic that it starts to click. Not so much this week, so I'll take the Browns in this one. Jacobo, wants to know, and again, Jacobo, thank you for the super chat. Would you trade away Zach Moss for Christian Watson? I think it's a good time to sell high on Zach Moss. I mean, I guess it depends on your expectations for Jonathan Taylor. Is he actually going to play for Indianapolis this year, which was also a question earlier in the chat.
Yeah, I have no idea on the Taylor part. I mean, Jim Irsay doesn't really have any reason to live other than to antagonize Jonathan Taylor, so he might. Also, what happened there was Jim Irsay blurted out to media anonymously, but he blurted it out nonetheless, like, "Oh, we're gonna put him on NFI. We're not gonna pay him." And then the team lawyers had to tell him, like, "Jim, you can't do that." And he went, "Well, still." And so but still is doing this thing with the PUP list for 4 weeks, and he's saying, well, fine, then I'm not going to let you pay, but I will pay you, I guess. Aha. And so that's where he finds himself, and it's ridiculous, and he looks like a fool for it, but he's invested in making it look like he's not a chump and a weakling and an idiot. And so he has to pretend that he's like doing this intentionally, and he doesn't want to look weak by giving in to Taylor. So I could see Irsay trying to do something where he like suspends Taylor for the whole year, or just tells Steichen like, you have to make him a healthy scratch or something, because I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose my pissing match with him. So I don't know what to think there. But one thing to keep in mind about Moss is he's been hurt a lot over the years. At Utah, he had knee problems. In the NFL, it's been a variety of things. So there's that, and there's Evan Hull's not out for the year, is he? He's going to be back at some point. He's just on IR for probably short term. So Evan Hull will be back at some point and probably will take, I don't know, upwards of 20 snaps a game. So yeah, I like the idea of swapping Moss for Watson, although, I mean, you definitely don't have to do it. If you need the running back, I think Moss can be pretty good, but he's had durability problems.
Yes, he has. And that, how many more times this season is he going to, have a 30 carry game, do what he did against Baltimore, catch that beautiful wheel route for a touchdown? I think this is probably, unless you are really strapped for depth at running back, which I'm guessing not if he's entertaining this trade offer for a wide receiver. I think this is the sell high window for Moss. Yeah. Let's keep rocking. We've got Texans Steelers. So just alluded to that game a moment ago. We've got the Steelers as 2.5-point favorites. I think the offense is still busted, but I think the defense is good enough to where I do like their chances, especially against this Texans offensive line.
Yeah, I don't have a good sense of the Steelers defense yet. Of course, Watt, Highsmith in themselves are terrifying. The rest of it, in Fitzpatrick's, of course, very good. But other than those three pillars, I think it's kind of beatable. And who is it Slowick, who's the Houston offensive coordinator? Whoever it is doing a pretty good job, it seems like. And I've been caught off guard by how much they've been willing to kind of unleash Stroud, like throwing 40 attempts every week. I would have thought they'd try to keep him at 25 every week and like lean on the run game and the defense to kind of give him cover, at least his rookie year. And it's exactly the opposite to this point. They're just putting him right out there and telling him to shoot. So that's pretty impressive, I think, for all involved. However, I guess it is a different question. Like, do you want to do that 40 pass attempt thing against two guys who could push for 20 sacks in the same season? And I don't know, that might be a little different. Like you said, the Pittsburgh offense is completely crap, and I don't think they're going to get much traction against DeMeco Ryans defense here. So I'll say Houston, although what do you think? Do you think like the under, John? Like, are you concerned about the Pittsburgh pass rush maybe keeping Stroud's pass attempt volume a little lower?
I think they're going to have to restructure it. Like there's going to have to be a lot of quick games, sort of akin to like Colorado's first game against TCU this year, where they were throwing it a ton, but they just got rid of the ball immediately because they knew the offensive line wasn't going to be able to hold up. So if Houston goes with a similar type of philosophy with the pass game, keep the volume, but just shorten up the timing, I think it could work and it mitigate the pass rush a little bit. Basically, if Houston wins or covers this game, I think we see it go over. But if Pittsburgh wins, I think we see an under as well.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I don't have a great sense of how the Houston run defense is, but I will say I'll take Houston to cover either way, just because Kenny.
Kenny, and I think my favorite tweet from last weekend on NFL Twitter, just like such a random insult to Najee Harris, but so funny. Just said Najee Harris runs like he's wearing jeans.
Oh, man. I don't know
I don't know
about
why, but
that. I think he's surely these jeans at least I don't know, are like ripped a little bit, right? Like it's not
these dungarees are
they aren't Brett
weighing
Favre
him down.
Wranglers. Yeah.
No.
So yeah, I think that it is a funny image. I do think the Harris bashing has gotten a little out of hand. Like I think the whole offense is doomed because of the quarterback and the offensive line. And then optics wise, it tends to fall on Harris because
it does.
It's like people are just like, oh, why won't he get out of the way of my favorite sleeper? Why won't he stop being a hog and taking all these carries and being slow and stupid? It's like, he's not slow or bad. I mean, he's not fast, but he's not like the slowest running back in the league. That's probably Kyron Williams or somebody. And yet, you if you did a poll of like, fantasy Twitter people, they'd probably say Kyron Williams is the better player and the faster one. So it's like the people who hate Najee the most and are loudest about it, in my opinion, discredit themselves pretty much every time they talk.
Yeah, and they like the Venn diagram of them also being Jalen Warren high share havers is a perfect circle.
They are missed tackles forced patrons all,
and we don't care for that.
It's a stupid number.
That's not real. Indianapolis hosting the Los Angeles Rams. Interesting game here. We've got Indianapolis favored by 1 point at DraftKings, and the Rams, Indianapolis 1 point home underdogs at DraftKings, but 1.5 point favorites at FanDuel. So a bit of split action there as far as how the public is handling this. On the posted number with the Rams being favored by 1 point, 58% of the money is on the Rams covering 1 point.
Okay, so I must be missing some injury thing or something, because I'm a little surprised that the Rams aren't just favored in this game. Let's see.
Do you think it's a reaction to Richardson being back and like the books thinking that Minshew gives them a better chance?
I just think that the Rams should be able to throw on the Colts, because the Colts have maybe the worst corner rotation in the league, and Gus Bradley is their coordinator. So that's bad. And I know that the offensive line has been bad for the Rams. By the way, I didn't even notice until watching that game, the last one they were playing, that Joe Noteboom got moved to guard. Like, when the hell did that happen? I thought he was their bad left tackle, and now he's their right guard, and some other guys their bad left tackle. But anyway, that is a concern. And Matt Stafford, he's only got so many more hits in him. He's taken more than he should be given that. And DeForest Buckner is the kind of guy who can just kind of ragdoll your whole offensive line. So Avila is a rock, I think, but the rest of it might be kind of a leak. And maybe that's the way Stafford doesn't have a good game here. I don't know. I was trying to like do devil's advocate against myself, because like when I looked at it at a glance, it was like, these corners can't do anything against Stafford. There's no way. Gus Bradley, no way. But if DeForest Buckner eats Matt Stafford, then he can't throw the ball.
That's inarguable. And we saw Monday night. I don't think what Indianapolis has edge personnel wise quite matches up with Hendrickson and Hubbard on Cincinnati. But, that's where the Rams are going to get in trouble this year. Like, good edge personnel is going to cave in that offense. But I'm not sure that beyond Buckner that Indianapolis necessarily has it. I think you raise a good point about that corner personnel as well. So I'm on the Rams here as well, but I don't know how either side you could feel particularly confident either way.
No, I'll take the Rams too, though, with that said. I think Stafford, I know his numbers are ugly, but I feel like he's doing a lot better than his numbers say.
Yeah, he looks closer to 2021 than he does last year's iteration before he got injured. Let's go to New Orleans. We got the Saints hosting the Buccaneers. Saints 3-point favorites at home. Is it crazy to like the Bucs here? I mean, was the Bucs last week just a more realistic reflection of who they are? Or, is this a spot where, with New Orleans being sans Derek Carr, that maybe the Bucs do have a chance?
I don't know if I believe that Carr is better than Jameis Winston, so I don't know if I'm making much of that. It is, let's see. So I didn't get a chance to look yet how the Buccaneers used Godwin against the Eagles, but what they had done in the first 2 weeks was they mostly used Godwin outside rather than in the slot, which is where he had played pretty much all the time before this year. And I think it's hurt Godwin's numbers a little bit. It's at least hurt his target rate because it's easier to get not get open in the slot, but it's like you don't need to get as open in the slot to get a target. And outside, I think there's a chance that, I know Mike Evans is dropping all these passes or whatever, but there's a chance that Mike Evans is a better outside receiver than Godwin. So the more that the Buccaneers continue to use Godwin outside, the harder they make things on themselves, in my opinion. And this game could be a really costly demonstration of that if they keep using him mostly outside. So I don't know what the latest is on Paulson Adebo. I know he was out last week. That Alontae Taylor, he had a weird game. He seemed to kind of get like he was kind of like the goat of the the collapse that the Saints had in the second half, but he sort of just he was targeted like 12 times and he had like 8 good reps and then like 4 bad ones, so I think Taylor's probably good. Excuse me. But if Adebo's out again, then Taylor might not be in the slot. They can move him inside or out, but he was in the slot when Adebo is on the field, and it's like they should try to get Godwin against whoever that third corner is, and in the slot either way, I guess. Also, even if Taylor is in the slot, they should just use him there. And if they don't, I think they could have, I don't know, like they could be on shutout watch here, in my opinion. Like the Buccaneers aren't going to be able to run the ball, I don't think. So if they're leaving Baker Mayfield with just like 30 dropbacks, with Mike Evans immediately, I guess, getting ejected against Marshawn Lattimore, and then Chris Godwin going against like a double coverage on the outside too, there just might be nowhere to throw the ball except to like Cade Otton or something like that.
Yeah, that the Godwin usage is interesting. That he's had 60 snaps lined up out wide and 76 in the slot. That's usually way more favoring the slot than outside when it comes to Godwin. So a bit of a change there is definitely interesting. Maybe is that to make room for like the smaller guys like your Devin Tompkinses of the world?
I don't know why, but they've been giving most of the slot snaps to Tompkins and Trey Palmer, and I would have thought Trey Palmer was like an inverse of a slot receiver. If anything, I thought you want that guy doing distance running. But anyway, I don't think it's a good idea to keep using Godwin outside all the time. Not that he can't play there, but it's like I need a better quarterback for Godwin to project as well outside as he does in the slot. So with Baker Mayfield. So if they put Godwin back to the slot, I like the chances of kind of putting together a respectable offense here. And if they don't, I don't like the chances of it.
And then with Kamara coming back this week, what's your expectation?
Saints run defense is tough. I don't know if it's going to be I don't know if there's going to be much yardage up for grabs. There could be touchdowns. If I'm correct to worry so much about the Buccaneers offense, then the Saints might have a lot of time of possession in enemy territory. And if you're doing that long enough, if you're kind of sitting on the ball, snapping the ball enough times in enemy territory over a game, the touchdowns and even the big plays can kind of start happening. Guys can start slipping, getting gas, whatever. There is that route for Kamara, but I think more so he's going to be kind of sluggish on the ground, and I don't know what effect I'm expecting as a pass catcher. I guess I like his chances as a pass catcher a decent amount, but I don't think he's going to be able to run for all that much yardage.
Yeah, I would say Kamara is like a lower tier RB2 for this week, but I am optimistic for him going forward now that the suspension is behind him. Let's get to Eagles Commanders. Eagles 8-point favorites at most shops. Way overwhelming public action is on the Eagles at -8 over at DraftKings. 72% of the money coming in on them, 80% of the tickets. Washington obviously looked terrible last week against Buffalo.
Dude, that Howell game might have been just the worst game ever. That was crazy.
Don't say it. I have earmuffs. I can't hear it. But it's not going to be much better this week against Philly, is it?
Probably not. It's Howell has this problem where he just point blank like holds onto the ball way too long. And now he's going to do it against the Eagles. So holding onto the ball too long. Did you know Jordan Davis runs a 4.78 40 at 340 pounds? Do you think?
I did know that. Yeah.
Do you think Sam Howell is going to? Is it going to turn out good for Howell to pat the ball and just keep waiting for that steamroller to get him? I don't know. Howell has to be a little better. I actually do think that will have to go down as the worst game of his career last week, or else he's just garbage, basically. And I don't think he's garbage, but man, he's got to get it together. Like you said, though, this is not really the setting for it. I don't know what Washington can do here other than bourbon bowl it. You know, like it's just that's a good. That's not a good option, to be clear.
No. There's no Bobby Boucher that's going to come in at halftime that we're aware of. So I'm on the Eagles here. What's up with AJ Brown? What was with those drops in the end zone last week? I know he mentioned he ate some Takis, and that
he said what?
Tum. He ate the gas station snack, the Takis.
Oh, I think so. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I tend to know snack products by just like the color of the boxes and bags, and those are the purple ones, right?
Yes, and they have some sort of demonic blue flavor. It upsets me to look at.
I'm not sure what I don't know what it's like eating Takis, but if they have a certain effect, maybe that's what got him. I don't know, but to be more serious, it's just chance. It's just 100% incidental, meaningless outcomes. The better signal is the fact that he's still doing really great in yards per route run, even with a couple missed opportunities. He's got his target rate is way higher, I think. Isn't it? This has to be way higher. Oh, not way higher, but 30 targets on 191 snaps is a really good rate for AJ Brown. That yards per target is actually really low at 8, but history says it's going to get closer to 10 eventually. So it wouldn't be so shocking. I don't know if it's this game exactly, but at some point this year, AJ Brown's got a 200-yarder in him, and it could happen any game.
And obviously, like you're more attuned on the corner matchups, but if you get Forbes lined up on Brown, like I think if you're the Eagles, you got to just wear that out, because as much as I like Forbes, I mean, AJ Brown is the physical mismatch of all physical mismatches for him. I would have to imagine.
Yeah, Washington's barely playing Forbes either. They're only using him as a nickel outside corner, and they're putting that St. Juiced guy in 2 wide sets, which is crazy to me. But yeah, they on the one hand, AJ Brown does have, what is it, like 50 pounds, something, almost 60 pounds on Forbes. On the other, I think it would be a lot easier to beat St. Juice just because, I don't know, he looks like a rover or something to me. He doesn't even look like a corner to me. So I think he's easier to beat, but you're right. Forbes would not be a concerning matchup for Brown. I think it's a little more concerning for the offense in the sense that Forbes is going to be that INT guy. Like he might give up a lot of big plays or something, but if you go at Forbes 10 times and you were really, had great results the first 9, you might not want to push your luck for the 10th one because he could turn it into 6 points on you. So with that said, it's not a concern for Brown. I don't think any of these corners are.
No. And then last question, DeAndre Swift, top 10 running back going forward?
You should be able to, in a reasonable world, assume that, yeah. But I still don't have any idea I don't know if it's Sirianni or was it Brian Johnson, the new offensive coordinator. I don't know who's handling the thinking about the backfield management, but I would seriously question their logic. I don't think their premises are as sound as they think, and I don't know if I trust them as long as they're showing such poor judgment. But Swift is definitely making it hard for them to go away from him with results like he's had.
Yeah, he's been pretty.
And Gainwell's not that good. I mean, I like Gainwell,
No.
but he's like the 40th best running back in the NFL or something like that,
Yeah, nothing special. We have a super chat here from Tyler. Mixon or Montgomery, provided that Montgomery plays, which we are expecting.
He's supposed to, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh man, that's tough. The issue with Mixon, in my opinion, and this is often the issue with him, he's not going to get that much yardage against the Titans. At least as a runner, he won't. I don't have a great sense for how they're. I'll try to pull this up real quick here. Looks like the Titans have also been pretty stingy against running backs in the passing game. So there's no obvious route for Mixon to get the yardage from scrimmage, but as always, he does he's in play for a good touchdown count if the Bengals offense is good. However, I feel like I'm laying out more conditions that need to be met in the case of
Mixon
than I do in the case of Montgomery. I know that the injury is concerning, but I just don't think you need as many things to fall the right way for Montgomery. But I could be wrong. Do you have any thoughts, John?
I'm on Mixon, but I don't feel great about it. I think they're both like lower end RB2s for this week, but I think Mixon just in the you're not even talking about the system so much, but I think that touchdown kind of tiebreaker I think is what gives me the lean towards Mixon, because I think Tennessee will ultimately give Cincinnati enough short fields to where Mixon can take advantage. Speaking of that game, let's hit it. We've got the Bengals 2-point favorites on the road at Tennessee.
So I think the Bengals roll here. Like you said, the short field should be there. The Tennessee offensive line is loaded. They're going to get rocked by Trey Hendrickson. Everybody basically is going to hit Ryan Tannehill and kick him when he's on the ground. And there's nothing that the Titans can do about it. So granted, Joe Burrow, not himself right now. The Bengals offense looks all kinds of screwed up. But however bad the Bengals offense can be, in my opinion, is not as bad as the Titans offense will tend to be all year. So I'll say Bengals, and I kind of like them to just, I don't know, run away with it, really.
Yeah, I think the defense versus offensive line mismatch in this
I gotta say, John,
the Bengals.
We hate to see this. The whole public pretty much agrees with us, and that line is not moving one bit.
Oh boy, hold the line, brothers. That makes me feel icky, but
there's some trap here, and we can't see it, but we're gonna walk right at it anyway.
Oh no!
You're Bengals right. By 20. It's okay. This is the one time that rich guy is going to be wrong.
The die has been cast. This is already a foregone conclusion. Raiders, Chargers, 5.5-point favorites. Over under sitting at 48.5. We are seeing the Chargers drawing 62% of the money on the spread. The Chargers. I got into a bit of a spirited discussion with our buddy Kev Masurgeon last night on Twitter. Talking about the merits of either Josh Palmer or Quentin Johnston. I have a ton more Quentin Johnston in best ball, but at the same time, and I have like no Palmer, period. But I felt like Palmer was a worthwhile add this week. I think at least in the short term, like I think Quentin Johnston by like November or something will pretty solidly be like the second target, hopefully in this offense, maybe third. But definitely like having that fantasy viable role. But I think for this short term, Palmer seems to just be running ahead.
Yeah, I don't think Palmer's any good, and I do think Johnston's good, but I think the Chargers. I'll blame Staley. I mean, it looks like the same show as the last 2 years with Joe Lombardi. Even though Kellen Moore is supposed to be in charge, I don't know if I really see it. And one way I think we can figure Staley's got his hands on the offense too is this obsession with guys like Palmer and Joshua Kelly. I mean, I don't know how you like those guys as an offensive coach. It's like you'd have to be out of your mind, or a more so defensive coach like Staley maybe. And he just prioritizes the wrong traits all the time in players on offense. And Palmer, he had the touchdown last week, but it was just because the tipped pass. So he doesn't get open. He doesn't do anything after the catch. They love him anyway. I have no idea why, but he's not as good as Johnston. And if they think otherwise in the meantime, it's only because they don't know who either player is, and they're not using them in a way that adapts to their abilities at all. And particularly when they just have this just urgent need for a downfield threat. I don't understand why we don't have Johnston just running some fly routes and going to him just to make the defense run a little, just to make them turn and run a couple times. And it's just too much to ask. It's like you get more Josh Palmer when you ask for that. You want that? Oh, you get more Josh Palmer. You get more just 8-yard like curls. It just never ends. So whatever. Anyway, I think Justin Herbert is going to have a really good year. It sucks that Mike Williams is out, not for the least of which reasons being that I have a ton of Mike Williams. He might be like my third most drafted player behind who, John? Nick Chubb and
Nick Chubb and J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah.
Oh man, so we are cut from the same cloth, and boy, the injury bug has been brutal for us this year.
So yeah, I still think Herbert's going to have a really good year, and so Palmer will kind of just go along for the ride if so. And I agree. Palmer, I think Palmer could, if Cooper Kupp comes back, I can see Palmer finishing the year with numbers like about as useful as Puka Nacua, as far as, in season fab pickups go.
So I was comfortable going like 20% of my fab budget on Palmer. I wasn't quite ready to go up to 25. That usually was going to be enough to get him. Waiver leagues, totally different story, but that just kind of shows the level of confidence. Like definitely a believer that he can be a contributor for this next little bit, but definitely not someone that I was pushing all my chips to the middle of the table for.
Right.
Tyler is chiming in again. Thank you, Tyler.
Hey, Tyler.
So keeping in mind, talking about the Lions Packers matchup for Thursday night, Jair Alexander versus Amon-Ra St. Brown. What's your read on that matchup?
Well, like Tyler says, it looks like Jair is going to play at least. He was out last week, but I would be pretty surprised if Alexander covers St. Brown much at all. It seems like the Packers are using Jair more this year for shadowing assignments, but that's to say they're using him like Tre'Davious White gets used with the Bills, and they'll track a receiver, yes, but not into the slot, or at least to this point he hasn't really. So we'll see. I think Jair can play the slot. I just don't know if the Packers scheme has like a play package for it. So we'll see, but it would be good for St. Brown if Jair stays out of the slot, not just for the obvious reason that Jair is a tough cover, but if Jair is a tough cover on an outside receiver, that makes the funnel that much more towards St. Brown. So we got to hope the Packers keep Jair outside. Yes,
and in which I think St. Brown will have a nice game either way, but we'll see if he draws that shadow assignment. But I think you had some good data to support the claim that maybe Jair isn't going to be solely responsible for one Amon-Ra St. Brown. But rounding it out on the Chargers-Raiders game, what do you make of this Raiders offense, especially it being as inept as it is in the run game, as it has been? But do you think against this Chargers team that maybe Josh Jacobs gets going.
Yeah, Jacob should get going. I don't think he's the problem at all. And I don't think the offensive, I guess I haven't watched the offensive line closely, but I don't know why the offensive line would be the problem either. I think it's just McDaniels and the whole operation is just kind of the problem. And it was driving me crazy. I didn't pay close attention to this until last week because I never really cared about Hunter Renfrow, and I still don't. But man, you can tell Josh McDaniels has nothing but contempt for Hunter Renfrow and no sincere intention of using him at all because they're putting him on the field to run go routes. They're having Hunter Renfrow run go routes to give Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams more room underneath. I
Al Davis is rolling in his grave.
Yeah. My God, he runs like a 4.58 at 175 pounds.
Should be Jacoby Ford doing that.
It should be. It should be like almost anybody else. It's just it's wild that they gave him that extension and they're using him in that completely disingenuous way just so Josh McDaniels' boys can get the ball instead. It's crazy. But Raiders are doomed. They're not going anywhere good. Chargers aren't exactly convincing to me, but yeah, the 5.5, the 6, those are the kinds of numbers I was thinking too, and I'm not really inclined to take the Raiders.
Yeah, I'm on the Chargers here. It's mostly just a bet against the Raiders more than me like feeling great about backing any sort of outfit that is run by one Brandon Staley. We got Cowboys and we got Patriots. We got the Cowboys checking in as 6.5-point favorites in this one. Found some interesting stats for this one as far as betting trends are concerned. Dallas 9-1 against the spread coming off of a loss since 2021. And New England is 5-12 against the spread as a dog in that same sample.
Can't claim to know what any of those things mean. I know what you're saying to me. I just don't. I can't grasp what went into all those outcomes and what it means for this game. When I look at these teams, I guess as always, got to pull up the Patriots injury report, see which 30 players are on it this week. There's only 5. Jonathan Jones, that would be big if he could play. Christian Barmore, Devon Godchow pretty much need to be out there for the Patriots. So if they are, they're still in it, I think. Which is, that's where I'm leaning on the Patriots is like they're in it. And I feel like this spread kind of doesn't suppose that's true. The spread kind of dismisses the Patriots. And man, if only for the question of Dak Prescott, who I like. I don't think Dak Prescott's a bad quarterback. I think he's like, I don't know, the 10th or 12th best quarterback or something like that. But he has limitations. There are reasons why he's not the 5th or 6th best quarterback. And he just kind of gets tricked sometimes, or he tricks himself into making bad decisions. And if you're the kind of quarterback who sometimes who sometimes misreads the defense, dealing with Belichick and this personnel that he has on defense this year is kind of a nightmare scenario. So I'm not exactly expecting the Patriots to do well on offense, although I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if they stick with the ground game. Their offensive line is healthier than it's been all year. They were missing like 5 of their top 7 guys as recently as 2 weeks ago. It seems like they're all back now. So the Patriots might be able to run the ball. And if they stick with it, I think they can. So that's how I think they got to do it. But the defense needs to step up, of course, for them. And I'm kind of optimistic that they will, because I still believe the Patriots defense is extremely good. It just kind of, their season's been bumpy as an overall team.
I do too. I'm not sure that it totally railroads the Dallas offense the way that I think Dallas's defense is going to railroad the Patriots offense.
The Dallas offensive line is a lot more beat up than the Patriots one at this point. I mean, we'll see with Biadasz, Martin, Tyron Smith, what they do with practice today and tomorrow. But they were all out Wednesday, whereas all the Patriots guys are getting in. So I don't know, man. I if I had to pick a side, I would pick the Cowboys, but I don't want to pick them to cover personally.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I am on the Cowboys here. I like the way those trends are setting up, and I like to fade Mac Jones. So those are the pillars of my rationale.
Not the most likable fellow.
Nay. Hitting Sauce Gardner below the belt. He's the Grayson Allen of the NFL. I'm glad that Grayson Allen is no longer
Is Grayson Allen
in
a nut puncher?
Milwaukee. Yeah, he's an everything puncher.
I thought he was like I didn't know if he was like a tripper kind of.
He trips and then cries when someone. Yeah, it's some weird stuff going on with him.
They got to do some kind of duo thing together. Grayson and Mac Jones. I mean,
for Heelys, like the shoes with the wheels in them, because they're both heels.
Oh, nice. Yeah, there you go.
So that's
or like Gatorade, and it's just like the game is you just try to trip your opponents until you win.
Is it in you to trip somebody? Absolutely, it is. Let's go. We got 3 more games to hit. 14-point spread in this one, largest of the season. We got the 49ers playing host to the Cardinals. Cardinals have any chance of covering this one?
No, Dallas clearly got caught looking ahead a week last week, and not to take all the credit away from the Cardinals, but I'll do it anyway.
Yes.
They're still really bad, and the 49ers, their defense makes games like this easy for them.
Yeah, I think that the Niners are wagging. To me, they are the best team in the NFL right now. I don't see them slowing down. I think, especially if they get Brandon Ayuk back, they're so multiple on offense. So they're going to be able to, have success no matter how they want to do it, that they'll be able to. And then defensively, I think that they're just going to smother Josh Dobbs and company. So I like the Niners even with that hefty spread. Chiefs, Jets, Sunday night. More Jets on national TV. We get Jets and Giants on national TV this week. What happened?
It's better than
we know Kenny, what happened with the Jets, but
it's better than Kenny primetime Kenny. It's still bad, but maybe that's why we get primetime Kenny so many times, so that when we get primetime Zach Wilson, we're not so bent out of shape about it. I don't know, but yeah, this it's a weird game because I still feel like the Chiefs' offense looks all screwed up.
Same.
And I don't know what is supposed to give. I think they could just make themselves a lot better by giving Rashee Rice like a 55, 60 snap workload. I don't understand. I'll go ahead and say whatever reason Andy Reid thinks he has for managing Rashee Rice's playtime that way is just a crap made up reason. Like, you just put him on the field and leave him there. It'll work itself out because he's good. And your other receivers, I think Moore is okay, and I think Valdez-Scantling, he serves a structural function. But it's just ridiculous. Stop the Tony thing, stop the Justin Watson thing, put Rashee Rice on the field. Look at his target rate per snap. They need that yardage that he's getting, and they're putting him back on the bench and getting duds instead. It just doesn't make any sense. They got to start feeding him and keep him in the field.
Yeah, I'm all about that. You definitely correctly identified Rashee Rice as a potential, not day one receiver that can be a contributor as a rookie. And yeah, the rest of that receiving personnel is not great. I mean, so Travis Kelce has to do a lot of the heavy lifting there. What do you think of the spread here? Do you think that the Jets? The defensive talent is obviously there, and the Chiefs, their offense isn't clicking. But if the Jets
give me the Jets, John,
there, 9.5
to cover.
Yeah,
but not an easy decision. I'm kind of joking, of course, but I do like the idea of 10 points. The Chiefs being on the road. I think that Jets defense is going to give Pat Mahomes plenty of trouble. I mean, Mahomes has had trouble against weak defenses this year, so why would he? It's possible. He is Mahomes. He's inevitable. He's going to get back to that level eventually. I just don't know why it would be this game particularly. And if the Jets have, I don't know, the discipline, the focus necessary to just stick with the ground with Breece Hall specifically in the ground game, I don't know. If you give Breece Hall 15 carries against this defense, I kind of like the Jets' chances of making the Chiefs, squirm a little.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think basically it all comes down to what level of disaster is Zach Wilson on Sunday night.
Pretty bad. And I do think that Chiefs defense is good, or at least, better than most people assume. I just think you can hide Wilson with a player as good as Hall. You can at once hide the quarterback and actually move the ball. And I think, if they get Hall 15 carries, I think they cover high aspirations.
There we go. I like it. Some concrete prediction there. Let's round it out. Seahawks, Giants. I'm not really getting why the Giants are favored here. I mean, I know they're at home, but it's Monday night, so you're not as worried about the West Coast body clock penalty for Seattle. Seattle, I think, is the better team. I know the Giants are also off that mini bye at this point, having just played last Thursday. Maybe they get Saquon back. Maybe they get Andrew Thomas back. Maybe Evan Neal is good to go. But even so, even at full strength, I think I'm out on the Giants.
The Seahawks defense has been incredibly bad, and I haven't had a chance to look closely at the individual culprits, but I feel like this Witherspoon pick must have been a bad idea in addition to pretty much everything else they're doing right now. Everybody is just getting olayed. When you go against the Seahawks, they just let you go with the football. They say, here, take it, go. And I think even dang Danny Dimes might have what is it, like 230 yards passing or something in this game, which might be a season high for him. He'll run for another 40 or 50, like Woody from Toy Story falling down stairs, as he always does. I do think the Seahawks win. I can't tell what I expect of the Giants defense, especially over the course of the year. Like the Giants defense hasn't been good so far, but they might improve over the course of the year because they've had some turnover in the secondary, and it's two rookie corners playing a lot in the secondary. Those guys sometimes get better over the course of the year. But right now, I feel like those Seahawks receivers should pretty much run free.
Yeah, I think that the Giants defense has been a big regression spot for them. And, it wasn't totally their fault. The week one game against the Cowboys, there was a bunch of stuff that the offense and special teams were contributing on that blowout loss. But, getting the ball moved on them the way it did against Arizona, and then, the 49ers did what they did, of course. There's still some things to figure out. So, I mean, there's a reason why Wink Martindale got let go in Baltimore. I mean, his uber aggressive blitzing style, it can work, but there's a risk to it. And when the risk comes in instead of the reward, we see the results that we've gotten from the Giants thus far.
Yeah. Again, I have to kind of do the Jared Goff disclaimer thing with Danny, but I'll take the Seahawks.
All right, Seahawks. I'm seeing it as well, so I like them to cover and win. Obviously, just 1 point underdogs in this one. All right, Mario, that is going to do it for us. Thanks to all of our listeners chiming in the chat on YouTube. For our audio listeners, apologies for my cup choice last week. Metal cup, ice cubes in it, made for some bad background noise. We fixed the cup issue, no ice in sight, and both cups either ceramic or plastic today.
We have removed the cup and replaced it with my mouth breathing to put you all at ease.
Yes, and all right, here's hoping that the noise reduction filter will get some of my mouth breathing out of this one. But for Mario Puig, I'm John McKechnie. Thanks for listening.
Try RotoWire today, free for 10 days. Get our premium tools, rankings, analysis, and breaking news alerts. No credit card required. Go to rotowire.com/